Welcome, Nick. Thanks for joining, man. Maybe a good place to start is your name, company, and role with the company.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Nick James. I work with Buck Knives. I am the marketplace manager for us. So I oversee all of our online marketplaces, specifically Amazon being the largest. And then we do also have presences on eBay and Walmart as well.
Nice. So let's chat about life before Pilothouse. So what was life like for you and your team prior to working with Pilothouse? And I'm curious
Sure.
what some of the biggest struggles were that brought you to kind of, looking to work with an agency like Pilothouse.
Sure. Yeah. So I have a background. I spent a lot of years in the marketplace realm. So like very familiar with the overall day-to-day operations of working on Amazon and like how to, get your presence live, how to sell, all those kind of things. And our biggest struggle for us was like maximizing our ad dollars. Like we had set up a couple of the automated campaigns, and we're not seeing the results that we kind of hoped for. We were seeing, our returns were okay, but they weren't like amazing that you would kind of expect when working with like a true team of professionals. And so, we were spending money kind of blindly, I guess is like a good way to put it, and wanted to get more out of it and be more strategic with like how we were placing our products within Amazon. And that was kind of what led us ultimately to working with Pilothouse.
Cool. So once you got in touch with the Pilothouse team, I'm curious if you can speak to some of the goals, the early goals that you had when you kicked
Sure.
off the partnership.
Yeah. So for us, I think it was to obviously like more bang for our buck, better returns. We wanted to take our advertising dollars further. We also wanted to figure out what our unique product mix was, like how much branded and non-branded spend should we as a brand be doing on Amazon, because we are fortunate to have a very good organic traffic to our brand simply because of brand recognition. But our goal was to reach new customers. Like we didn't want to pay more for our current customers. We wanted really to uh, be able to reach new Amazon customers, being the largest, online marketplace in the world. Like, how can we tap into, the customers who are just in the market for like a new pocket knife or a new hunting knife, but have never heard of us. And so we wanted to figure out like, hey, how can we maximize returns? How can we reach new customers? And then also, how can we begin to find the right mix of protecting our brand on Amazon so that we're not getting, competitors bidding on us, but at the same time, we're reaching the most amount of new customers as possible.
Yeah, nice. And then fast forward, how did things go? So how have we helped you reach your goals, if those were your
Sure.
goals? And I'm curious if there's any numbers that you can actually reference that kind of demonstrate some of the impact that we've had on you and
Yeah.
your
So
team.
yeah, for sure. So for us, we took our advertising spend from, we were spending around like $3,000 or $4,000 a month, and we were making, maybe let's say like 12, 15,000, which was okay. Like it was a positive return, but it wasn't anything that we like, were really like as excited about. And once we brought on Pilot House, we were able to, come in with a consistent budget of, like a $10,000 spend between like 10 and 12,000 was kind of our initial goal. And we got our returns, in the like $100,000+ a month range, which was
Yeah,
extremely
that's awesome.
successful. I mean, yeah, like so. I mean, they took us from like a 3 or 4 ROAS to like we were seeing, close to 10 returns. And in like the higher months, I think we finished December this year like at like an 11.5 or almost a 12. So like it was a super successful partnership. As far as like the brand non-brand side, this one took a little more ironing out, and I kind of worked with the Pilot House team to figure out that like, hey, why isn't this working initially? And that was really kind of strange for us, where we played defense and like we saw like a little bit of a bump, but it wasn't really a bump that I think any of us had wanted. And we began to realize that we need to play a very, very small bit of brand protection and dive more into non-brand. And so we've been able to shift into a, like let's say like a 15% branded spend into like an 85% non-branded spend, so that we're defending ourselves, but we're also chasing new customers. And I would say like overall, our daily revenue has jumped from, kind of around the 10 to 12,000 range, and we're doing, between like 15 and $17,000 a day now, which is huge. So
I actually don't even know this. How long have you been working with the team?
So we actually just surpassed the year mark like a couple days ago. So
Congrats,
we're
1 year
yeah
anniversary.
yeah we're one year into it. So um,
Cool. Where are we going on here next? So, I mean, classic. I mean, I'm sure you've been in a position before. You've been burned by agencies. I'm curious if you had any like hesitations or fears when you began working with Pilothouse or prior to beginning to work with Pilothouse, and how have we helped squash them?
Yeah, so I think it was for us, like I've both worked on the agency side myself and worked with agencies. And so like I never really had the reservation of agencies. I think I see the huge value in how it was. I think for us it was like figuring out the right pricing structure that worked.
Mm,
I think that Pilot Houses was more in line with what we were hoping for. I think a lot of the other agencies that we worked with, like I guess the vetting process was like very strange, where the communication with Pilot House was like so simple. It was like I heard back from Rob and Dan, like I got like that daily reply or whatever it was, and I had some agencies that like I reached out to them like, hey, let's schedule a meeting. I emailed them back saying, hey, this is my availability. Can we talk next week? And just like ghosted me. Like I mean, there was like new business that they had coming in, and they just never responded. And then I think the other one that we like, down to the final two, like the deciding factor for me was there's never any like ego with the Pilot House crew. Like they're down to try, they're down to like get creative and also like take the brand's advice of like, hey, this is what we're seeing like on our direct site. Like, can we implement something similar? Where the other agency that we had like thought about going with, like there was so much of like where you felt like you were kind of being talked down to, and it was just like I just couldn't deal with that. I was like, I don't want work with an agency that's going to be like, kind of have this like arrogant sense of like we're better than you and this is why you need us, basically. Where I'm like, I'm the client, like we're looking for you. Don't tell us that like what we're indebted to, basically. So it's just been so seamless. Everybody's been super communicative. Like the Pilot House crew, like they're fun dudes. They're super funny. Like I mean, all of our calls are end up going on some funny track, while we're diving into analytics. So like I look forward to the house call every week versus like dreading like talking to the agency. So
that makes me smile. I'm happy to hear that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah, I guess you kind of touched on this, but in your experience, what are some other things that make working with us unique, maybe relative to other partnerships that you've had?
I think with Pilot House, I think it's the willingness to try new things. I would say has been really helpful. Where like they truly do take your recommendations as the brand of like, there's nobody that knows our products better than us, and so from an agency's perspective, it's like how can they do a better job? And it's a lot of the time it's just like listening to like, hey, these are the trends that we're seeing on our direct side, or like, hey, we're planning to push these products. This is the seasonality of these specific products. And so wherever I can provide those insights, like they're always open to like learn, and they always ask those great questions to figure out like, hey, like when do you guys see the uptick here? What products are you moving best on the website? Like is it what's the price point that's like the sweet spot for you guys? Like what products should we be advertising the heaviest based on what your price points are? So I think the openness to learn, I think, is something that you don't often see a lot of the times. As a client, you're being instructed of like, here's what to do, here's what we're going to make sure that you do, versus like, hey, what are you seeing on your side? So
Yeah, you mentioned the question before. Pricing structure was a huge reason to work with Pilot House for you and your team. I'm curious if you can elaborate on why it was so attractive and how it's like benefited you guys.
yeah, so for us, we had a unique pricing structure where we have internally our executive team, just doesn't really do well with I think we've been burned on our retainers before, and so it just retainers were never an like appealing model to us. And I think a lot of the other agencies we worked with or were planning on working with had pretty substantial monthly retainers where there was no really incentive for them to do any better, because like that money was guaranteed. So we have like a very unique pricing model with Pilot House where it's just a top line, it's 2% of overall ad attributed revenue. And so we're a unique model where they do have an individual like myself who is managing the channel itself and the overall listing maintenance, the updates, the new products, all that kind of stuff. And we just truthfully needed uh the Amazon marketing help. Like that was our sole need, was like we need someone to run our ads for us, and to where like I'm not having to pull time away to like adjust my bids every morning, and to be monitoring those things quite as closely as Clifford and the team are. So for us, we were just like, we were scared away by a lot of these. Hey, it's going to be $15,000 a month plus 3% of our like ad spend, or 3% of our ad attributed revenue. So it was like there it was guaranteed money without really any incentive to work harder. And Pilot like openness to be able to work within our parameters was huge, and that was ultimately what sold us in the partnership with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, Congrats on the 1 year mark. Beyond the
Yeah,
1 year mark
no,
now, I'm curious if what over the course of that year has really helped us build a sense of trust with you and your team.
I think for us, it's the transparency, like straight up. I mean, the Pilot House team will be the first ones to tell us this isn't working. Like hey, this week just didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, you know? And here are the adjustments that we've made in place of the area that didn't perform. It'll be like, hey, we saw like really good returns here. This side didn't do well. Here's the changes that we've implemented to now make the side that didn't do well do better. And I think that this just like they're very transparent, and they're not afraid to call out like where things might not have gone as planned. I mean, that's also how advertising works. Like any type of bid structure is going to be, you're going to see ups and downs, but I think just the transparency into the wins and losses of each week are super beneficial, because on my side it's easy for me to relay to my higher up teams of like how we're doing, this is what's working, this is what's not working. And also how the marketplace shifts. I mean, Amazon is a strange beast in the sense that things that worked 2 weeks ago could just suddenly drop to zero, and that's just the nature of how it works. And we as sellers don't control Amazon's algorithm, so it's like we're always learning, and we're always trying new things, and that's just how you be successful on Amazon, is the willingness to try new things and to accept losses and find wins elsewhere. So
Yeah, yeah, we it's actually awesome to hear. Transparency has been built into like our core values and DNA since, I mean, I
cool.
joined the company 4+ years ago at this point. So it's awesome hearing, feedback that the team is like on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, just like keeping
Absolutely.
it real with you and your team. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious more on maybe I was going to say personal note, but from an operational perspective, I'm curious what impact we've had on you personally and just the overall workload and stress levels of you and your team.
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, it was nice to like not have to worry about even running the ads, just to be like, hey, that side's taken care of. Where most of my day to day is literally like the constant listing updates, the fighting with Amazon of like, this product was taken down, this UPC code doesn't match, these images are incorrect, and then you have to submit them and they don't update, so you have to create a case. And so like my day is so consumed with the just the management of the actual Amazon channel itself, and making sure that we keep products in stock. Like I'm the one who is creating shipments and sending them to my shipping team to make sure we get those on time, and like just like monitoring inventory levels to make sure that we have enough of each of our products, and then monitoring inventory levels internally, because our knives are produced domestically, where we don't just get to place the order button and product shows up. A lot of our products, or most of our products, are made right here in Post Falls, to where like I have to monitor like, hey, we're these blades are being run through this week, we're not going to have those knives until 2 weeks from now. What I mean? So it's a very manual process on our inventory alone. And so to take off the side of like advertising allowed me to kind of get back to what, just to keeping the channel like alive and healthy, to where Pilot House was able to be more successful, because we're not running into marketplace problems you know on there, so that we're running ads. And especially like where we have buy boxes that will go down from a competitive price on another marketplace, and so I'm getting in touch with our sales teams to be like, hey, can you fix this price? And so just having that like workload off of it, and then also the expertise of the team as a whole. Like that, I mean, they've been exposed to a lot of different problems within brands, and they were super helpful with, a couple different brand registry issues that we ran into, some listing updates. Clifford was huge on like some how to create better variations of our listings, how to properly submit the files so that Amazon doesn't kick them back to you. There was a lot of things that they just kind of were able to offer, like the little tidbits that were super super helpful on my side to be able to do more.
I'm laughing in the back of my head because on those beers and tears call that I'm talking about, it's just like a giant venting session about the frustrations of dealing with marketplace and managing all these calls with
Yeah,
their
it was.
reps to put out fires. It's like all it
No,
is. It's hilarious.
well, yeah, and I think that's where our model is unique. Is a lot of times that and Clifford has told me that Pilot House will do full on do channel management from inventory to listing updates to advertising, where we're just the advertising side. Like we're a kind of a one leg client where like you might have like all four legs of the chair on Pilot House basically, and so um, it's interesting to talk with him about kind of how like the struggles that I'm seeing, and he's like, oh man, I had a brand that this is what they ran into. This is how I fixed it with them. And so like those pieces of information are so huge because there's so many different ways that you can work successfully through issues on Amazon that it's been nice to have like another team of experts that like I can bring the knowledge that I have from the last 7 years within Amazon and then like bounce it off the knowledge that those guys have, and we really are able to kind of create some good problems and also help each other, which has been super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. All right. Last one for you. If there was someone else in this room that was thinking about working with Pilot House as a partner, I'd be curious what you would tell them.
Yeah, so I would tell them to go for it. I mean, I would tell them if you want an agency that works hard, and is willing to like put you as the brand first and provide knowledge that's like I think would be outside of the expected scope. Like a lot of agencies will be like, "Oh, hey, like we don't do that, or we like that's outside our agreement. Here's a surcharge of like this is going to cost you extra if we're consulting on those sides." There was never that side of it. It was just like, hey, like they're offering me advice of like, hey, how to submit a feed file, this, that, and the other. Here's how to like fix this issue when they're our advertising partner. You know what I mean? So it was like, I would recommend is like, if you want someone who feels more like you have a person working next to you who's not within your organization, like Pilot House is who you want to go with.
Yeah. The advantages of aligning yourselves to top line rev, just like do whatever you can do to make more money. We're all in the same squad.
Yeah, and I think that was the thing too, is that like you could definitely feel that like they were they were invested on like making the brand grow, and we're a well-known name within the outdoor industry, and I think it was like, wow, you guys are literally scratching the surface of what you could be doing on Amazon. And just to hear those things are great pieces that I can bring back to my teams and be like, guys, this is what we're seeing. Like, and it's for me a lot of times it's fighting to increase our overall budget, because I think that we really aren't even tapping like what the actual market is, and people that we could be getting in front of. And we have so much data to support that Buck Knives is like so well known, and I think just to have like a team of experts that's like behind me that's like willing to be like, hey, yeah, like we'll jump on with your executive team, we're happy to help, kind of show the information that we've learned and like why we think this will be beneficial. So it feels like you kind of have like a department that you're managing who doesn't work in the same building as you.
Well, cool. That's it. That's all the questions I've got for you, man. I
Awesome.
really appreciate you joining and doing this for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely.